Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well, and I hope that you are managing to hold on and prevent yourself from falling into the abyss. That's very positive, isn't it? But help. Fingernails digging in, feet dangling into a black hole of life. And there we go. So we're taking one of our usual roundabout routes through everything today. And I wanted to start by talking to you guys about professionalism. I have just recorded a little mediumship mini for the spiritual school, and I thought that I would take it a bit further on the podcast where we've got a bit more time and we can really feel into things, because it's something that's really coming up with me. Now, you guys will know that I don't believe I'm anything special in terms of my mediumistic ability. I don't think I have something you don't have. I may have practiced with it more, but it's not a gift that I was given that you need to be different to be able to receive. It's just there. It's just a case of practice. The reason I could do something you can't do is practice. But I am starting to recognise certain attributes about myself that are different. Now, I'm not going to say unique, because these will maybe attributes that you recognise in yourself, but certainly there is a exploration at the moment I'm being called to by Spirit of acknowledging the things about me that are unique and different. And it was funny because I was interviewing this morning on Instagram Live. I went back with Katie Costello and we were talking, the Soul Midwife, about her podcast and asking extra questions, and listeners could ask questions. And she was talking in that about resilience, how resilience is something that has to be learnt. And that absolutely resonates with me. That's probably one of the biggest transformational changes that I have experienced in my time of working with Spirit, is realising that I'm resilient, or developing resilience and determination. And I guess that's where you start to realise that mediumship is a calling, because if you didn't love it as much as I love it, then you wouldn't develop the resilience. You wouldn't keep pushing through. You wouldn't be so determined, because the determination comes from my love of it. But I wanted to talk today more about professionalism, not resilience. Maybe that will come in some more. Here's possibly an interesting fact for you. In season 4 of the podcast, which only started on the 1st of September. So, the first podcast was actually released on the 4th. I have had 10 interviews that I have done so far. You haven't heard them all yet, but I have done 10. I've also had 5 not turn up, forget, or cancel last minute. And that has been eye-opening to me, because these people are professionals. These are people that are out there doing the work. We are all experiencing a big shift in social media now. You may well, in your experience, have had some posts that you have done removed from Facebook. I have currently lost, it's over 100 so far. And they're saying it's cybersecurity. But we all know it's not cybersecurity, because if cybersecurity was the priority to Facebook, they'd get rid of all the scam accounts that I have reported saying they are copies of me with my picture on. So we know that cybersecurity isn't really a priority for Facebook. We know that this is obviously another agenda that they are pushing, that they have dressed up under something else. And it's a very interesting time for us all. So you would think, wouldn't you, in that case, that when these people have an opportunity to reach a wider audience on a podcast, they would be taking it. It's why I say yes to every podcast I'm asked to be on. I don't look at their following. I don't look at how long they've been going or anything like that. My deal with Spirit is that I will say yes to any opportunity that is offered to me, because it's always a learning experience. It's always something to be gained from it. And I was talking to Spirit this morning, because if we take, obviously that's 33% of the interviews that were scheduled have cancelled. If we look at that, I started asking them, I started thinking, how many, I know I've cancelled a few different readings and things like that I've had when I've been unwell. I've had a migraine, something's happened. Before I gave up drinking, I had to cancel some because I was hungover. The shame. But if we look into that, I was asking Spirit, like, how many have I cancelled? And in honesty, I think it's less than a handful. So if you acknowledge that I've done thousands of readings, it's probably less than 5 I've actually not been able to do for whatever reason. Now that is quite right. And actually, if I'm honest, the 5 that I have had to reschedule, I'm annoyed about. But that's me. I'm a perfectionist. Oh, how ironic that I can't even say perfectionist. Triggers. But within that is an acknowledgement of the characteristics of me that make me more successful. And the understanding that all of the things that I have done in my life before I started working with Spirit were training for this role, for this place, for this space I find myself in now. So when I worked in finance and I worked as a completions manager for a mortgage company, it was target driven. I liked targets. I liked the satisfaction of numbers. I liked being able to achieve something and ticking it off. My bosses really understood that aspect of me, and we would have fun activities where I would win something silly that wasn't particularly high value necessarily, but it gave me that satisfaction of something to aim towards. And now I find it hard, if I'm honest, that as a professional, I have to set my own. As a self-employed person, I have to set my own targets, and you don't celebrate those in the same way. But that's by the by. So I'm used to being intentional. I'm used to setting myself targets, and I'm used to doing whatever it takes to make those targets happen. We weren't paid overtime. We worked overtime because we wanted to achieve the targets. Probably not the healthiest, you could say, environment, but I loved it. Nothing beats the satisfaction of achieving a goal. I still have that as part of me. I'm very precise and analytical because I had to be. I was checking legal documents. I was checking mortgage offers. I was checking what solicitors had said. I was checking my team's work to make sure they'd checked it correctly. Those are good things to have in your mediumship development, because they are what makes me check whether my mediumship is good enough. We've talked about analysis a lot recently. Don't panic. I'm not going down that road again. We've covered it. But one of the things that intrinsically is in my personality, sometimes to my detriment, if I'm honest, is if I say I'm going to do it, I do it. And it's surprising to me how many people don't. How many people talk about it but don't get it done. When I started Home Cooked by Hannah, my ready meal business, I can remember having some friends over on a Friday night and saying to them, I've had this idea for a business. And them saying, oh, that's a really good idea because you are a cook, you're a really good cook, you should be doing that, you should be getting doing that. And I was talking about all the ethics of it and properly sourced food with real ingredients, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, I remember my friend saying to me on the Monday, when I'd launched a social media account, done my food safe qualification, was having prepared the kitchen, had booked in the local authority to come and inspect the kitchen and make sure it was safe, had organised the packaging and designed my own logo. She did say, wow, that was quick. And it was quick. And it didn't mean that I didn't make mistakes, but I have always had that. I'm just going to leap off and do it. I'm just going to get it done. And I actually believe that's incredibly necessary in mediumship, in setting up a business, in getting yourself out there. Even if you are just wanting to practice your mediumship and you don't want to be a medium, but you want to improve. If you are saying to spirit, I want to improve my mediumship, and they're saying, well, you need to put something out there to practice. You need to ask friends of friends if they will practice, and then you're not doing that. Or people are replying and you're forgetting to get back to them. Or people are booking in with you and you're forgetting about the appointment and having to reschedule it. The problem here is you. It's not spirit. Spirit aren't going to make you remember. Spirit aren't going to push you down the path, because it's part of the resilience building that you need to learn and have within yourself. Is I've asked spirit to step up for me, and understanding the magnitude of that, the importance of it. In my mind, spirit are like people in the real world, in the sense that you have to have respect for them. Yes, they come from a place of infinite energy, infinite power, unlimited potential, but it doesn't mean that should be taken for granted. And that is something that's just in me. And that's something you need to be cultivating in yourself if it's not already there. If I've asked spirit to support me, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up to those practice sittings. I'm going to push through my tiredness, my imposter syndrome, because that's the least I can do when I've asked them to come and I know that they have. The very least I can do. And having that kind of mindset, I think, really helps me. And when when people say to me, oh, Hannah, you're so lucky, it pisses me off, because spirit have given me loads, but I gave it to myself too. I turned up, I pushed through. I have had this laser-like focus on my development, sometimes to the detriment of my family, sometimes to the detriment of my children wanting to be with me. I'm not saying that's what you have to do, but don't act like I was given this by accident. When I started working with spirit, when they took Muggle Hannah and they showed Muggle Hannah what was there and blew my mind open, it was everything I'd ever wanted and more. And the fact that it still continues to blow my mind, and I have, every time I get one answer to a question, it brings up another 30, is so perfect for me. But it wasn't just given to me. I took it. And that's really important to think about. It's really important to recognise whether you are doing a reading for a friend in a practice scenario, or you are taking money and doing a paid professional reading, the presentation that you give is absolutely important. You are a representative of spirit on earth. That doesn't mean you have to pretend to not be a human. I'm very happy in my humanness. My potty pirate language often raises a few eyebrows when I demonstrate, because how can I be talking to the angelic realms of heaven and dropping a cuss? I can. I'm happy with that. That's okay for me. But I still have this overriding respect for spirit. It's why I never send a spirit away. It's why I know that spirit don't make mistakes. They don't make mistakes. If you get something wrong in your mediumship, you've got it wrong. Spirit do not get it wrong. They do not lead you astray. They do not mess around. They might play. They love to work with us. They love to have fun, but they will never give you a piece of information that is incorrect. If there's a no, that is either a gap in your sitter's knowledge or a gap in your understanding of how you've received it. It's never spirit. And I understand that. I have that intrinsic respect for them. Where was I going? I don't know. It's just very fascinating to me that, especially I think in the practice scenarios, but actually some of the people that are doing professional mediumship out there, it's almost like they're forgetting that they need to be stepping up into a professional energy. Just like if you went to the bank to ask for financial advice, if the person behind the counter had food down their top, needed to brush their hair, just looked a bit of a mess, you probably wouldn't have the same value from it. It's the same in the sitter-medium relationship. So you need to be stepping up professionally. If you've got someone booked in for a practice reading, are you sending them an email to remind them or a text? Are you making it like an official appointment? Are you explaining to them what's expected of them? Even if it's a friend, are you saying to them, I can't wait to have a chat and a catch up with you, but let's get the work done first? Sitting them opposite you on a table so you're both sat up properly, so that there is this kind of professional element to it, because that will change the energy that your sitter is bringing, which in turn will change your mediumistic capabilities. I'm not just saying this because I'm a stick in the mud. I'm saying it because it's important. And one of the things I was talking about in the school video is the number of people that rock up to courses with me that haven't tested their microphone or their camera. It never fails to shock me. It's not difficult to Google Zoom test and work out if you can actually be understood. And it's kind of like this, I'm going to say it, lazy slapdash approach to things. And then people wonder why it isn't working the way for them that it should. And I always want to say to people, not because I want to be confrontational, but just because I'm interested, did you just not think it was important? Or did you think that spirit were going to make your microphone that you knew was malfunctioning work? Which is it? And I find that, is it an oversight? Is it a naivety? Is it a disempowerment? Because spirit will not clear up your mess for you. They will hold you accountable to clear it up yourself. And they're reminding me here of a time when I had sound problems. Oh my God, I don't know if any of you were on that, but I did a Zoom meditation. And I got really fixated on needing to have music with it. And that was when Zoom was even shitter than it is now with music playing. And essentially, nobody could hear me. And it was a very funny one because I pulled myself a card from Moonology before I went live. And it was like the void or something. Nothing will come of this situation. And I was like, well, that's a weird card. I don't know what that means. What it meant was nobody could hear me. And nobody told me they couldn't hear me. They all just suffered through this weird ass Zoom with me where the music was coming in and out and nobody could really hear me. And then at the end they told me and I had to refund everybody. So yeah, nothing did come of that situation. But it was a really good lesson for me in testing and stepping up and prioritising it. I'm not telling you that I got to this space accidentally. I have been manoeuvred through this space, but I have utilised lessons like that to help me understand what's required of me. And now I'm sharing it with you so you can understand what's required of you. It's important to be in that space where you are stepping up. It really is. One of the things that I talked about on the school as well is having, if you're connecting on a phone to a reading or into a classroom, that is fine. It's not that I'm saying you have to be on a laptop because that would make it unaffordable for a lot of people. But prop up your phone. Or buy one of those holders for it so it's not waving around like you're in Challenge Annika. It's really important to be bringing your best game forward and being really present for it. So test your microphone, record a video with yourself and listen back to it. Can you hear yourself clearly? There's Zoom test. You can Google it. You can test your link. You can test your internet. It's important to be presenting the spirit world as professional, because what does it say to people if you rock up? I mean, I saw somebody doing a live the other day and they were doing their hair while they were on the live. Like, here's a message from Spirit, but while I'm doing that message for Spirit, I'm also going to stick my hair up and I've got a Kirby grip here and I'm doing this and that. No. Brush your hair before you go live. For goodness sake. Because all it takes is one person who is on the fence to come across your live and it be an opportunity for you to show them your faith, your belief, your ability to share the words of Spirit, and you're there with your washing drying in the background. I've seen people walking in and out of Zooms. Even if you're doing a practice reading, start educating your family. I need you out of this space. I need you to not be online because it interrupts my internet. I need you to be quiet. And that kind of thing, families can learn. They don't have to believe what you believe. They don't have to be on board with your spirit work. It's just a matter of common courtesy and respect. And that comes from you respecting the spirit world. Sometimes, as you will know, my dog barks. There's not a lot I can do about that. He is disrespectful. He doesn't care. But it's important for me to be always striving for a certain standard in my presentation. Oh, do I sound like a stick in the mud? Probably. Do I care? Yes, a little bit. But do I think it's important enough to talk about? Also, yes. It really is. I think we're on a pinnacle of a mass awakening that isn't going to change the world. I want to be clear about that. I don't believe that we're here for the world to be anything other than what it is, but we are moving into a new phase where more and more people are waking up, and you want to be part of that movement. You want to be drawing them in, not turning them off. Does that make sense? Now, in that way that Spirit always keep us guessing, they're also asking me now to talk about wanting things to be too perfect. Never a dull moment here, is there? If you are wanting to take that leap into launching your spiritual business, or even offering practice readings, don't allow yourself to be held back and held in stasis by needing everything to be perfect. It's so important. Understand it's an evolution. You don't need to be in this space where you are all ready and every box is ticked and everything is done, because you'll never move. I still haven't got everything the way I want it. So my website, for example, I do myself because I'm always changing, always evolving. But that was a really good thing for me because I just started with a one-page website. And then I added another page, and then I added another page. If you told me I'd have a 15-page website that I'd done myself, I'd say absolutely not. Never. But just starting was key. When I first launched on Facebook, my business was called Readings and Reiki. And I ran with that for 5 years before Spirit said, now you need to be out there as you. And I had to set up my page as Hannah McIntyre. And then in that, I've been Hannah McIntyre, clairvoyant medium, spiritual medium, evidential medium. I think I'm just Hannah McIntyre now. But again, that kind of moving through it, playing with it, different profile images. I mean, I've got a logo. I got it from Etsy. It used to appeal to me, doesn't so much anymore. I haven't really got a logo. I don't have business cards because you can find everything you need on social media. I've got flyers, but I haven't got business cards. So I think sometimes we can also stop our progression by wanting it to be too perfect and too professional. So you've got to find that sweet spot. Here we go again, of putting your best foot forward and really stepping into the zone that you want to represent spirit with, whilst simultaneously not allowing that to become the thing that stops you moving at all. So I hope that makes sense. One of the things that often comes up, especially if you've done a healing qualification, is that you shouldn't heal people when you are feeling unwell, annoyed, upset, because the energy flows through you to your client. I actually believe that is the same for mediumship too. To me, the mediumship is healing. That's the purpose of it. And so it's part of your awareness of self that you need to be one with the cyclical nature of healing, of your emotional experience and where you are at. So I'm not just talking about when whammaroonies come out of nowhere. As I think I've mentioned to you guys before, it's always quite amazing to me to watch what happens to me when I have a migraine, because I will plummet emotionally. They make me think very negatively. It's like having depression, like turned up 100%. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I've gone from feeling absolutely fine. And that's often the first symptom for me is I'm like, oh, look, a butterfly. Everything is good and happy. Oh my God, maybe I should die. Nobody likes me anyway. And moving in that kind of space. Now I'm aware of that. I'm aware of its impermanence. So although it feels horrendous when you're in it, it doesn't really have the same control over me that it used to. But those handful of clients that I've had to cancel when I've had a migraine have been because I can't build my power when I'm in that space, because my vibration is too low. So it's important for you, as part of your professionalism, to look at where you're at energetically and really be aligned with yourself. And this is what we mean when we say that the journey with spirit is not an external journey where you're going off. It's a journey within. It's a journey to self. It's a journey of being present. Because for a lot of the time, when we are going to have a energetic downward spiral for whatever reason, we're aware of it a little bit before it comes in. So you can plan accordingly. And that's important to recognise. It's important to recognise that healing is not a linear line of improvement, but more cyclical. It does go up, but within that, there are always moments where you're feeling not so great, moments where you're feeling amazing. And I know I mentioned it before on this podcast, but that's why it's so important to be aware of your energetic seasons, which aren't necessarily represented by the seasons in nature around you. But how are you feeling right now? Are you getting winter, time to stop, time to go within? Autumn, time to release, time to make way, time to bed down, getting ready for the stopping? Are you in spring, where there's shoots and you want to focus on growth and you want to plant lots of seeds, getting ready for summer, where there's this abundance, making hay, being out in the colours and the light, and understanding you can have all 4 seasons in one day. You can be in all of those experiences in a 24-hour period, but it's important to recognise where you're at and how much your mindset can shift the season that you're in. I think most people, especially at the beginning of their mediumship journey, when they're about to do a reading for somebody, they go very much into a winter. I can't do this. I don't know who I am. I'm tired. And so that's okay, but you have to kind of pull yourself into spring, summer to be able to get there. And that's all right. But it's important to recognise the shifting patterns within you and how that affects your ability to be in this energetic space, in this energetic work. And the reason I'm bringing that up on a podcast about professionalism is because it's very important to be mindful of what you are projecting out there. So I have this sweet spot where I hope that I hit it, but I know I don't every time, where I will talk about my ailments, yawn, yawn. I will talk about those, but because I want you guys to know that it's not all perfect for me all the time. One of the problems for me when I started my mediumship journey was that everybody seemed healed, whole, got their life in order, got their head together, understood the process of everything. And I was flailing around thinking, my God, why am I the only person that's struggling? And it was revelatory to me to realise that everybody goes through these lumps and bumps. It's just they're not sharing it. Now, there's actually value in not sharing it. There's value in not talking about it. And so you've got to find that place between not gaslighting the people that are in front of you that everything is perfect all the time, but also not feeding the bits that aren't good. Focus is so important in this. Talking about what you're talking about and being aware of what you're saying and what you're sharing and what you're projecting out there into the world is so necessary, so important. So just being a little bit aware of the posts that you're sharing on social media and what you're saying and what you're commenting on and all of that kind of stuff is really important. And it's just coming back in. I forgot I shared this in the video on the school, but I'm going to share it with you guys as well. Somebody that I'm very fond of shared a post on their page that was a quote from Buddha, and it mentioned something about anxiety. And I thought, bloody hell, that's weird. I didn't know that anxiety was around when Buddha was around. I thought it was quite a new phrase. So I looked it up, and Buddha had never said that. And I'm not saying that I've never shared anything that has ended up not being true. But I am saying just being aware, just having that analytical brain about it really helps. Because again, if you've got somebody on the fence and you're talking about being a healer, but talking about your health complaints all the time. If you've got somebody on the fence and they're quite getting involved in your stuff, and then you share a quote from Buddha that isn't actually a quote from Buddha, it's something that somebody made up and then wrote Buddha next to it. Again, are you doing the best work as the best representative for the spirit world that you can be? And it's okay to accept that you're on a journey and you're going to get things wrong sometimes and right sometimes, but being a little bit accountable for that, I feel, is important. Now, you might completely disagree with this, and that's okay too. I think there are different types of mediums for different people. Different people want different things from it. And so I'm not telling you that my way is the only way, but I am telling you what I personally believe to be right and true. There was somebody, I'm not going to tell you who, no matter how much you asked me, who really wanted to be on my podcast. There's somebody I knew from my development. I'm pretty safe and secure in the fact that they don't listen to this, but they really wanted to be on. And I kept thinking, oh, I don't want you to be on. I don't feel like we gel. I don't think it's going to be good. Anyway, out of politeness, I had them on. And that's lovely. They were actually great. But you knew there was a but coming. When it came to time to promote the podcast and do the bit that they're supposed to do. So it's like a deal. It's just like I was talking to you earlier about this reciprocal relationship. You tell spirit that you want people to practice on. They bring you people to practice on. So you practice on those people and you step up. You turn up for your appointments. Just like that nature of that relationship. When people come on the podcast, the dealio is they share it. Like, that's common courtesy, is it not? Every podcast I've been on, I've shared. I have links to everything on my website so that people can find it. I feel like that's the deal that we make. Anyway, she did not share it, and I tagged her in it. She didn't even share the tagged post. There was no thank you for having me comment, nothing. And I let a little bit of time go by, and then I chased her and she didn't reply. And so then I messaged and said, I'm going to take your poddy down. because that's, I'm not just doing a one-sided thing here. And she got in a right huff about it and said that she planned her social media posts way in advance and da-di-da-di-da. And that is absolutely fine. And I kind of thought, well, maybe I'm the problem here. Maybe I'm expecting too much of people, blah, blah, blah. Gordon Smith comes on the podcast. Massive moment for me. Massive. Has shared the podcast on his Facebook, on his Instagram, in his stories, and on his website. So it wasn't that I was expecting too much. It's just that some people get it and some people don't. And you have to decide where you want to be in that and what standard you want to be at. I want to be someone who gets it. I want to treat people as I would like to be treated. So even Gordon Smith, with his TV appearances, his international fame, all of his books, 20-odd books and all of that, he still gets it. So being mindful of things like that, I think, is really important, because actually, really, what is mediumship but being aware of other energies, other people, whether they're in spirit or they're here in the physical. And if you can't do that, surely you're missing a very valuable and intrinsic part of what it means to be a medium, what it takes to be a medium. I don't know. Maybe you're listening to this and thinking I'm an arsehole, which you're entitled to your opinion, and you're right. Sometimes I can be. But finding that space in it, I think, is really, really necessary, really important. Whenever I push myself into a new phase of expansion in my work, I'm always committed to making it proper, to doing it properly. And I think that puts me in good stead. It's good to be analysing. It's good to be trying to see things from your sitter's point of view. So if I can offer you any advice at the end of this somewhat odd podcast topic for me, but that's where they wanted me to go, so I have been obedient for once and done it. It is understanding all aspects and how you are presenting to your sitters. So it's not just things like looking at how you look on a camera and checking your microphone works and your internet connection is good enough if you're working online, but it's also about walking into your home as if you're a stranger. If you're going to have people in your house, what does it smell like? What can you see? If you've got a Reiki bench somewhere, are you lying on it? Are you looking to see what your sitters can see and feel? Are you lying on it for half an hour? Is it still comfy after 30 minutes? Do you need to get a mattress topper? That's what I had to do for mine. Those kind of things that just start you to understand the experience that you are supposed to be providing. And yet so many of us seem to think that spirit will sort that out for us. Spirit will clear that problem up. It's not how it works. As a little simple aside, if you're in an in-person circle, you cannot fry onions before you arrive and expect everybody else in the circle to be okay with that. I've had people rock up when I worked in person where they'd fried onions the night before or where they'd cooked chips, and they rock up smelling absolutely foul, and then everybody in the circle is like trying to connect to spirit. And yeah, it's good because it makes you practice in difficult circumstances, but it's important also to be stepping up into that proper space. Like when people arrive to practice groups and they want to unpack all their personal information, it's not the place. It's not the place. You can talk about things that are coming up for you in your spiritual journey, but the humdrum of your life, it's not a counselling session. That's not what a spiritual development circle is for. And I think that there needs to be an evolution for people in their work and their approach, so that we are attracting clientele the right way and we are showing what it's really about and we are stepping ourselves up. And I know that I have talked about some of this before, but I just want to end by talking about respect for the spirit world. The spirit world are way, 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 way more intelligent than us. They know everything that ever will be and everything that ever was. They are not limited by capacity to hold information. The information is all available to them. So they are not getting it wrong, ever. And it's really important when you are portraying your faith to the spirit world that you don't fall into that trap that some mediums fall into, where you act like they need direction, or like they need you to tell them what to do, or like that they could get it wrong. It's so important to be respectful, I think, of them. Like that medium I saw when no one could take the spirit that came in, and they went, "Oh, wrong show, love, go off to Sally Morgan," and everybody laughed, and it was funny, but it also wasn't very respectful for the spirit that had stepped forward to work with them. I found it really upsetting. So it's good to have fun with it, it's good to play with it. You know that I'm big on that, but it's also important to look at how you are presenting your connection to spirit and your relationship with the spirit world. And if you are speaking about spirit in a way that you would be annoyed if your partner was speaking about you in a public setting, at a dinner party, at a party, in a group, then there's something amiss there, isn't there? I hope that you have enjoyed today's lecture on professionalism, but it is really important. And I hope it makes you think about all the things you're getting right, because that's really where this started for me, was spirit reminding me what makes me special. And it's not my spiritual connection, it's not my spiritual gifts, it's me. Have a good one, and I'll catch up with you again next week.